Hello there, I'm John from Nicklin Gaming, and the other day I had a guy on Facebook ask me a question of how do you make something like this? So I'll just press play and we can see what it looks like. Okay, so here we go. We are going to see my health bars drop down. The hearts on top will move at a quarter at a time, kind of like Zelda, while this bar shows about 20%. This is a bar for the heart on top. So it's an interesting health design that the guy wanted help with, but it's very easy to go overboard with the coding that you add to it. And we're going to go through everything from asset creation to the coding needed for it. And you can see that it's just slowly going down over time. And this is what the health bar will look like. All right, so that's it in a nutshell. And let's just get started into making it. Now, as you can see here, I've got these little heart masks. Then underneath it, I have a red image, which uses a radial fill, and then I just fill them up 25% at a time. And then I've got this whole heart bar that I've added to a horizontal layout group just to keep it nice and organized. Then there's a health bar right here, which similarly uses a filled image, but this one is horizontal instead of radial 360. And of course with just a little mask on top. So I will take you right into Photoshop and we can get to making these different assets, and they are pretty simple to make. So let's start with a basic 256 by 256 pixel image. You can have it at whatever resolution you like, but it is good to start with the background contents as transparent so we don't have to add transparency later. So I'm just going to click Create, and now I've got my Photoshop here. So the first thing that we want, let's go with something super simple. I want that bar, because to add the filled image to Unity, we do actually need an image to make it filled. And so to do that, I'm just going to make a white solid block. And I'm going to export this as a PNG, but I need a folder to save it in. So I'm going to right-click in my Assets folder, say Show in Explorer, Explorer, okay. And I'm actually going to make a new folder, which I will call Images. Now I'm going to go into those images. I'm going to just copy the whole path from my C drive. I'm going to go back to Photoshop, and now I'm just going to save it directly in this. So this will be a block. We also want a circle. So we can, actually, no, we don't need a circle. We're fine without that. So we can go straight into making the heart. Let me name some of these layers. So for those of you who want to save it later, you can see where you're at. Now for the heart mask, I want it to be a nice gray. Now I have chosen this gray of 36, 36, 36, but any gray, any color that you want is okay. So I will press my G key to fill, and I'm going to fill this up. But we need to cut a heart out of this somehow. So to do that, I've just gone to Google and searched for a heart drawing. I'm going to copy this image. I'll paste it in here. I'm going to shrink it down to the size that I want it so I can use it. Just takes about one more. And I think I want a heart about that size cut out. I'll make sure it's in the center. I'm going to select my magic wand tool. There are similar pieces to all of these in GIMP if you need a free image editor. And then I will just press the delete key, and now we have a great heart mask. So I will save this as heart. I will also name this as heart. Now we need to do something a little bit different because we want these circle bars, and these do not need to be separate. In fact, even my hearts don't need to be separate, but I like to have those hearts separate so I can match them to their image nicely. So what I will do now is I can either create a, let's do that. So I'm going to go to New. Now our current one was 256 by 256. This one will be twice as tall. So 2 times 256 is going to be 512. And then the width is going to be 5 times as much. So if we open our handy dandy calculator, there it is, and type 256 times 5, we find out it's going to be 1280. So for our width, we'll type 1280. Make sure it's transparent so we don't have to mess with those things later. Okay, now I'm going to just make all of this gray. Then, in a new layer, I'm going to select my circle, my little circle. I'm going to click in here. Let me make it more in the center. And I want this circle to have a width of, so we are dealing with 256 by 256. So I want this to have a width of maybe 225. And then a height, since it's 512, maybe 480. Let's go with that. These don't matter too much, but after I generate it, very important, we need to make sure that we change to a white color. And actually, let's do the rounded rectangle so it looks a bit better. So rounded rectangle, using the same values as last time, the width of about 225, the height of about 480. We will click create, and we see that it's off, and unfortunately in Photoshop, if it's off with the images that you create, it doesn't really work out too well. So I'm going to click a bit higher up and try again. So let's see, 225 and with the height of 480. Let's try this. There we go. Now I'm on screen. I'm going to add it in. I'm going to make it about here. I'm going to copy it. And we're just going to drag it over. I have the Photoshop snapping on. Let's see. I'm going to say, let's see, this one had a width of, and let's do some quick calculations to think of how we want this laid out. You know what? I'm not a math guy, so let's make this easier. I'm just going to shrink my canvas size down to the width of 256. Yes, I'm okay with some clipping. Let me delete my layers that I don't need anymore. I'm going to go and paste that circle that I had, and now when I drag it around, it will easily be put in the center. Now I'm going to merge these layers, I'm going to, okay. I'm going to select my rectangle marquee tool, select everything here. Actually, Control A would have done just fine. Now let's go back to that 1280 canvas size. And this way I can paste it over and over again. And of course, just use the Photoshop auto snapping to make sure that things are dragged perfectly into place. Okay, now I'm going to go and merge these layers. I'm going to select my magic wand, and I want to turn off contiguous, select one of the whites, and then delete it all, so we have this nice mask. So I'm going to save this. I need to get back to my project. So right-click, Show and Explore, go to my assets, my images. I'm going to copy the path there. I will paste it into Photoshop, and I will save this as bar. Yeah, just as bar. Okay. So now with those 3 simple assets, we should have enough to make our scene that you see here. So let me go to a completely new scene. I'll start everything fresh with you. As you can see, we are doing everything from scratch in this. So let me right-click, and I'm going to add an image. Let me zoom out a little bit. In my Unity project, it is a 2D project. Doesn't matter if it's 2D or 3D. For my canvas, I do like to use the full HD of 1920 by 1080, which is the general screen size of 16 by 9. I'm going to have it scale with screen size, which I will have match here, 1920 by 1080. And I like to have my screen match mode to expand. I find that things fit better that way. I'm also going to go onto my camera, so I don't need a background. Change it to a solid color, and then I'm just going to select a gray. Okay. No, let's go with a slightly darker gray. There we go. That's a nice gray. Okay, so this image is going to be the health bar holder, or actually let's just say health holder. The name doesn't matter too much. I will select my anchor presets by left clicking. I'll hold Alt and Shift and click the top left. Then we want the width to be, let's see, what about, so we can't exactly do 1280 here because that's almost the entire width of our screen. So instead of having things the same size, which would be a bit too big for this canvas size in Unity, I'm going to have everything be halved in size, which means that maybe our images are bigger than we need, and if you want to really optimize your project, you can go through again, and instead of building these images in 256, you can do 128, or even smaller, because Unity scales images pretty well. So for the width, let's do half of 1280, which would be about 512, and then let's do the height of the heart plus the height of the health bar divided by 2, which would be about 384. And this would be the area that our health stuff is displayed inside of. Okay, and I'm actually going to go through and remove this image. It's more for helping me get the layout on my game screen, because sometimes the scene screen is not up to par. Okay, next I'm going to create an empty and this will be the health, no, this will be the heart layout, and we will set that to the top bar, and the top bar will have this at half of 256, which would be 128. We are going to add a horizontal layout group, have it be middle center, and control the child size. Next, because we need to layer things on top, which means we want the mask to be on top of the red color, I want to add a basic UI image, and this will be the heart fill, and let me add 0 to it since these numbers will be automatically added. Then I need to go into I want to go into my images, and let's select all 3 of our images because it didn't do it automatically. There are many times Unity will automatically create your images as sprites, and other times when it doesn't. So I'm just going to select all 3 of them, go to Texture Type, and select Sprite 2D UI, and make sure to click Apply. It will take a brief second. Okay, now I want to drag the block over here, and when I do, you'll notice some extra settings pop up. So I drag it here, and now we see that it goes from nothing to image type, and then I can select filled. And we'll get into the details of this later, but we will be changing this after we get all of our hearts. Now to add on top of this, I'm going to add another image, which will be my heart mask, which I'm going to select the anchor presets, hold Alt-Shift, and just have it stretch all. And to this I will add my heart. Now yes, it does look ugly, but we will be changing things. For my heart fill, I will select the image color and just drag it over to a red of full 255. Okay, now we want 5 of these, so let's duplicate it 4 times. And now we see that it looks much nicer. But if we select all of our heart fills, like you see in my hierarchy, and we drag the radial, you see that it doesn't look too Zelda-like. Maybe if you want it starting from the bottom, you can, but usually it starts from the top. So let's select Fill Origin, set that to top, but now it's going the wrong way. So we will turn off clockwise. And that is just what we want. This is the heart that we are used to in those old retro video games. But we have one more very important thing to add. So let's add another UI image, and this one will be my health bar. And I'm going to have that take up the bottom part and then drag it up. You'll see that it's 256 high, and it should be the whole width wide of about 512. Okay, and let's make this red. We also need to add the block because this is going to be filled, but instead of radial like this, we want it to be horizontal like this. And let's add our mask on top of it. So add image, and we'll say health bar mask, which I will add my bar image to, and I will have it fill up the whole way. So now you can see that as we change the fill amount value, it will slowly fill up these bars. Now, this is all well and good that we have everything laid out, but we don't have any scripts left yet. So I will save everything. Let me make some scripts now, but I like to do everything nice and neat. So in my assets, I will create a new folder, which will be just for my scripts. I'll go in there, and I'm going to create a C# script, which I will call my heart controller. And let's open that up in our favorite script editor. Okay, let me dock this again. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's my demo one. Haha. Okay, let's make sure this one is dragged back off screen so I can kind of walk you through it. Okay, so as you saw, the first thing that we are going to want is we are going to want to track the 5 images of our hearts and the 1 image of our health bar. So I like to use serialize field to display things. Public does the same thing, but serialize field makes it private and shows that you have more intelligent code, in my opinion. Okay, so I will make this an image array. Oh, image, and then let's select the Unity UI. If you do not have the same pop-ups that I have, what you can do is you can press Control period and select using Unity Engine UI. You can right-click, go to Quick Actions, select using Unity Engine UI, or you can simply type it. Okay, let's make this an array, and I'm going to label this as my heart images. And this array will hold those 5 images for my heart. Next, I want another serialized field, image, which I will call my health bar image. And let's give a little header to this since we'll be adding a lot of things. So this one will be for the health display. And we will have a few more values that I like to have. So let's make a serialized field. This one will be a float value. A float is like a number, but it does not have to be a whole number like 0, 1, 2. A float can be a decimal number like 0.5, 1.2. And normally Unity uses floats instead of doubles because floats take up less space. Okay, so I will call this float my health, and I'm going to set it to 100 by default. This way we can watch the health as it goes down. And I'm going to add a header here as well, which will be the demo display. Now, on top of the health, for the demo display, like I showed you at the beginning of the video, we also want to reduce the health, and we want to reduce the health over time. So we are going to have another serialized field float of health lost, which I like to set to 0.5f, a good small value. I like it better than 1 because 1, it chunks a bit. Okay, and let's do one more serialized field, which I will call my float of the wait time. And I actually find this is much nicer at a much smaller value like 0.1f. You can set it to, and this is in seconds, so this is 1/10 of a second. We can even add some comments for you. In seconds. And let's actually, just so we can make this nicer, turn this into a range. So we have a sliding bar. So I'm going to do a range of 0 to 1. Okay. And great. I still have my comment. We can even add some comments to these because I like to have comments for all of my stuff when I look back on my code. So for the health lost, this will be the reduce health by this amount every wait time tick. Okay. The health is pretty self-explanatory, and it's usually hard to add a comment below a header, which I find interesting, and we don't really need comments for our health bar images. Okay, so next we want we want a function. I'll make this a private void. We don't need to add private when we just say void, but I will call this display health, and this will be my function that I will display the health on the health bar images. So this will do nothing with my demo display other than the health. It's mostly going to affect the images themselves. So first, we want to know how many hearts do we have filled up at this time. So I will make an integer for hearts filled, and I'm going to set that to equal the mathf dot floor to int, and we'll talk about this soon. And I'm going to have that be health divided by 20, because I have 5 bars or 5 health bars with a maximum of 100 health. So what you can do is you can have something like a max health. You know what? Let's even do that. So if I had something like a float max health equals 100, then I can set this to be my max health. You know what? We can even make it an inferred value. So we can say, let's say float heart division value, and actually we want a capital H here, and we will say get, and in the get we will return the max health divided by our hearts images dot length. Okay, that's just a shadow error. Okay, and then we'll use the inferred value of heart division value. So we have 100 divided by 5 is going to be the 20 that we had here before. But for some of you, this may help you out if you have some more complicated stuff. The maximum value that health can be. And then for this one, this will be the percentage that each heart takes. So right now we have 100, which means each heart is going to take 20. So 20 times 5 equals 100. But if it was something more like 200, then it would be 200 divided by 5, which would be 40. So each heart would be filled with 40 health points, if that makes any sense. Okay, now we want another thing. This one will be a float of percent left. So if we have a value of like, say, 95 health, that means 4 of your health bars will be completely filled up, but the last one will have that 15%, because 4 times 20 is going to be 80. 80 minus 95 is 15, which means that last health bar is going to be filled with that 15%. But we actually need to divide that down to something we can add to our image fill amount, because the fill amount goes from a value of 0 to 1. So for the percent left, I'm going to have that equal my current health minus my hearts filled times 20, and then everything is going to be divided by 20. Now, we are using this heart division value, so we check the max health instead of 20. So let's replace those 20s with heart division value. But that's, 20 might help you visualize what is happening. So what is happening is we have the health of our character minus the number of hearts that we know are completely filled, and then we need to divide that by the percentage that a single heart can hold. So we change that 15 to a range of 0 to 1, like 0.75 in this case. Okay, now let's set our bar image, so our health bar image. So let's say health bar image dot fill amount. Now if you ever want to know what exactly you can do with an image, just press the period and you can read through all of these things as long as you have the Unity IntelliSense. Add it to your computer, and if you don't, then Google that. Okay, or add a comment and I will maybe make a video about it. Okay, so our health bar image dot fill amount is equal to the percent left. That's going to be the same thing with our heart images. So let's say for int I equals 0, I is less than the heart images dot length. Had a little hiccup there. Then I plus plus. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to say if I is less than the hearts filled. So if we have 5 hearts, our health is at 95. That means we only have 4 hearts completely filled. Only 80 health completely matches. It can't get up to 100, so we don't have 5. So if I is less than hearts filled, so 0, 1, 2, 3, then we want to say our heart images at I dot fill amount is completely filled, which means a value of 1, because this ranges from 0 to 1. And let me actually make that look a little bit nicer since it's a single line if statement. Next, we want to say else if. So otherwise, if this has not happened, if the current I index is equal to hearts filled. So this is, 1 after our heart filled index. Then we say that our heart images at I dot fill amount, and we can set this to percent left and call it good there, and it will, slowly move the hearts in a radial fashion, but we want those hearts to move in a more Zelda-like 25% at a time. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add another quick little serialized field up here. This one will be a serialized field int, and I'm going to call this the heart pieces. And I want to set that to 4. Let's add a quick comment. So the number of pieces in a heart. Okay. So now to fill this up, we want to do another math f. This time we'll just do a normal round, and we'll round the percent left times the heart pieces divided by the heart pieces. So for example, our percent left is 0.5. 0.5 times 4 is 2. 2 divided by 4 is 0.5, so we know to show 0.5. But what if it's not 0.5? What if it is something like 3 point, or 0.3, which is not 0.25 and it's not 0.5. So 0.3 times 4 would be, let me look at my handy dandy calculator, it would be 1.2. And we are going to round that down to 1. And then we do the 1 divided by 4 to get the 0.25. And that's all we need to display the health. But we want a quick little thing to give the demo. So let me actually just do this real quick. So I'm going to go all the way up here and say hashtag region, and I'm going to say demo area. Then down here, hashtag end region, and I like to add another name down here so I know which end region I'm looking at. Okay. Now we want to do something called an IEnumerator. You can use the update function, but I find the IEnumerator is nicer for waiting. Okay. And I'm going to call this IEnumerator reduce health. And what I will say is while the health is greater than 0, while we still have something to show, the first thing I want to do is I want to yield return new wait for seconds, and we are going to wait our wait time that we said before. Then I'm going to say that my health is minus equal to my health lost. Minus equal is the same as saying health equals health minus health lost. So that's a fun little thing there. And finally, I'm going to display my health. Now, unfortunately, at this time, our IEnumerator is done, but there is nothing to start our IEnumerator in motion. So what I will say here is I will say in my start function. I'm having trouble because Unity has recently added this really horrible visual scripting, which is a horrible way to script. But okay, in my start, I will say start coroutine, and I will add my reduce health function. Now, if you want to change values, test it out many times, then maybe you want to make an update function, which of course you need to type void first in this day and age, so barbaric. Then you say if input.getKeyDown is equal to, I don't know, P. So if you press the P button, then we will start the coroutine. And of course it's a single line, so let's make it look nicer. Now we can go back to our Unity project and actually see all of this in action. Okay, so what I like to do now is I'm going to create an empty game object, which I will call my heart controller, and then I'll just drag my script onto it. And I will click the lock button up here to make sure it's locked. I will select all of my heart fills. I'm going to drag them to the heart images array. And you see that it's filled out with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 right there, which is very nice. Then my health bar, which I will drag to the health bar image. Okay. Now everything is set. I can save it. I can turn this off. And if I press the play button, then you'll see the hearts slowly decreasing as we want them to be. Okay, so let's test it out. And we can see them slowly decreasing. And as it gets, 20% down, it reduces the heart. If you want the heart to, only completely run out, when this bar has completely ran out, then you just need to add one in the script. But there it is, just very basic. You can reset the health to 100, go over, press P. If you want the heart to have 5 pieces, you can have it have 5 pieces. If you wanted to have 10, oh, not 103. If you wanted to have 10, it can have 10. If you want it to be smooth, then maybe set a crazy number like 1,000, or simply just set it to the fill amount. But thank you for watching. I hope this helped, and have a great day.